Oh, fantastic. I can hear you. I can feel the energy coming up towards me, which helps me to be energized to be here. I am so excited about being at Fit Camp. This is one of the highlights of my year, to be in a room where everyone is focused on one goal. There's a lot of energy in those type of rooms where a person has said, I want to see a difference in my life. I want to put all of my energy and efforts toward improving my inner and exterior and external life. Good things come out of that, and so I'm really glad to be here. How's your week been? It's been pretty good? Yeah? Are you learning some great things? Are you feeling better? Okay. Because that's really the goal there, is to feel better. Sometimes we get caught up in comparison, or we look at the scale, or we see how we used to be back in the day. I want to get back to that. But really it's about, how do I feel now? What are my goals now? What is something that is smart and realistic for me to help me improve my overall life, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, all of that. And so this morning, I'd like to talk to you about your emotional health and your mental health. I hear that your topic is on rest. Yes. And so I'd like to really talk about sleep today. It's something that oftentimes we don't realize is really important and closely connected to our mental and emotional health. It's also really connected to our relationships, and so hopefully we'll be able to see and sense how improving our rest in every aspect of our lives improves not only our physical health but our emotional health. Okay? I am a licensed psychotherapist. Usually people ask me, what does that mean? That is really the term psychotherapist is the traditional term for the word therapist, right? And a therapist is someone that sits with individuals in a counseling or therapy setting to help improve their life. They may come in for anxiety or depression, family issues, adolescent problems, family issues, mental illness. Me personally, I work with individuals, adults, individuals, and couples. And so I have concentrated my life on being able to help us to show up better in partnerships, show up better in our own lives, and hopefully to emotionally be aware wherever we are of the impact of who we are and what we can be. Okay, and so that's what I do on a daily basis. I have a private practice in Philadelphia. Anyone from Philadelphia? Yes, a few people here. So I took the commute out this morning from Philadelphia in South Philly, and I've just been blessed to be in this city for almost 3 years now. I'm from California, and so I can't claim the East Coast just yet, but it's warming up to me. Yeah, and I'm really excited to be here. So let's start off. Whenever I start, I think it's really important. Oh, before I start, let me thank Leah Scott. Thank you so much. I'm not sure where she is. She's kind of out, but I want to thank her for the invitation and seeing me to be a person that would benefit you in your process. So I want to thank her for inviting me. Before I start, I always like to set an intention. Intention is really important because when we set an intention, it allows us to have a compass, a guiding point for our process, for our journey, and then hopefully it's something that we can look back on and say, you know what, we made it to our destination. It helps us to know where we're going. And so God says that I will give you rest for your soul. Does anybody know that? Has anyone heard that? That I will give you rest for your soul. I believe that's something that helps us when we are tired. There might be someone here that's tired this morning. Tired of life experience. It might be the physical things you did this morning. Tired as a result of stress. Tired as a result of the pursuit of your fitness goals, or just tired based on how life has really dealt with you. But God desires and He has an ideal and created an ideal for us to have rest for our soul. What does that mean? Our soul, our entire being, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally, and hopefully spiritually as well. And so my intention today is to really express what that ideal is. What is this compelling measure that God has taken to ensure that we have rest, have a secure base for our weary soul? Secondly, for us to understand that you're at your best when rest is that secure base in your life. And lastly, I want to help give you keys for dwelling in rest in your everyday life. The average American sleeps less than 6 hours a night. I'm not sure if anybody can testify to that, but 40% of Americans, 40% of us are getting less than the required amount of sleep per night. What that's created is a sleep debt in many of our lives. What is a sleep debt? A sleep debt is a collection of sleep deprivation over time. So it may not be, oh, last night I only got 3 hours of sleep and so I'm tired. It may be, I got 4 hours today, 6 hours the next day, maybe 5 the next day, maybe 2 the next day. That collection of debt creates a scenario for us internally that we often don't realize. We're walking around sleep deprived. And how does that impact us? It impacts us in many ways. Physically, it impacts us mentally, our brain, it impacts our brain. And then emotionally in our relationships, it continues to affect us. Our Ariana Huffington, a few years ago, came out with a book and a study on sleep and the impact of sleep. And she declared that we have a sleep deprivation epidemic in our nation. That the average person is experiencing their life at work, in their relationships, in their physical health, through the lens of sleep deprivation. And sometimes it may be that the goals that you have set in front of you, and you're working really hard towards those goals in your relationship or in your fitness goals. But you don't know that there's this weight on your back that you're carrying that's acting as a barrier to you, and that is rest. That we don't have enough rest in order to accomplish the goals that we have set out for us. And so we have a sleep and rest epidemic in our world, and so much so they did a study recently, and this is something that most people have heard about. I don't know if anyone knows a medical resident, someone that's went to medical school and that is working in a residency fashion. Residents don't get a lot of sleep. They work on average about 80 hours a week. So if you can just calculate, so if an average person works 40 hours a week and they work 80 hours a week, how does that even work? Right? And so the study that they did, they looked at the functioning of medical residents based on the sleep deprivation that they were experiencing. And what they found was that their functioning after, being sleep deprived paralleled a person that is inebriated. A person, what does that mean? In short, a person that is drunk. Have you ever seen someone do the the test, right? And they can't really focus? A person that is drunk, right? Parallels in functioning to someone that is deep sleep deprived. Right? I thought that was astounding to think about, that our sleep impacts us physically so much so that we are less alert, we're less awake, right? We're not able to perform cognitively in the ways that we need to. We have an emotional reserve that is getting really, really low. Have you ever been in a situation where you're sleepy, and then someone says something to you, and you are like, I do not have enough reserve to not cuss you out right now, right? That we have this emotional deprivation. So sleep not only is impacting us in us just being sleepy. I hope you're getting that, right? That it's affecting many aspects of our lives. And really the other word to that is rest. Without rest, we don't want to just get sleep. We want to be rested. We want to have rest in all aspects of our lives in order to impact us. And so what is sleep deprivation? It's really getting less than the required amount of sleep than you need. So that varies per person, right? So one person, I know that my level, I'm right around 7 to 8. I need a good amount of sleep. I use my brain all day. So I need a good amount of sleep. But my dad, who is early 70s, he needs about 5. He can't sleep longer than that. It's just, he'll just get up. And so that's what he needs, right around 5 to 6. And we're both healthy. We're both thriving in what we need. And so it varies per person. Not everyone needs the same amount of sleep. So knowing that about yourself is really important. And not only having sleep, but what helps me to get restful sleep? Can anyone tell me the difference between getting sleep and being rested? Yes. Okay. Going to bed at a good time? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Knowing the time that you need to go to sleep? Sure. Yes. There are. Okay. Yeah. It's very true. REM, sleep. Mm-hmm. There's sleep cycles. Anyone else? Yes. Yes. Clearing your mind. Yes. So clearing your mind, she said. Yes.
Yes, clearing your mind and just letting God take over, because I know I do that sometimes, and I say, if you just let me focus on you, Lord.
Yes.
And that will help me to fall asleep.
Yes.
And it works every time.
Yes. There is a difference between getting sleep and feeling rested, right? It's kind of like some people may, like if you go to sleep and you're holding on to, I don't know if anyone's kind of tried to go to sleep with a baby in your hand, right? That in some way you are asleep, but your intention is deviated, right? That in some way you're holding on, you are carrying and holding on to something while you're also trying to sleep and rest. Very, very different than if you go to sleep and you're not holding anything, right? All of your energy and focus is on releasing, letting go, being free of whatever that is when you are awake. Being rested is very different than just getting sleep. And so sleep deprivation affects our cognitive performance. It just means how our brain works and fires and the neurons and things that are happening in our brain that help us do things. It affects our attention at work, in our relationships, in conversations. I can tell when someone has not had enough sleep based on how they talk. Have you seen that before? Have you had that happen to in your own mind? Right? You're trying to grab words and you're just like, I don't know what the word is for that, right? Your brain is really actually moving slower at a neurochemical level. It's moving slower, right? And so you being able to have that cognitive performance and attention is connected to your sleep. So lack of sleep can affect our body weight. Did you know that?
Oh, yes.
Okay. That there are two hormones in the body, leptin and ghrelin, and it controls the feelings of hunger, satiation, and fullness. And the levels of these hormones can be affected by sleep. And so if you're not getting enough rest, if you're not getting enough sleep, you can be deprived to the level, the chemical level, the hormonal level, and you can be working towards this physical goal and not see any results. And you're not sure what's happening. Why is this not working? Because there is something, again, like that baby reference that you're holding on to that's keeping you from your destination. It affects you physically in correlation with chronic illnesses, right? Type 2 diabetes. There is new studies that are paralleling sleep with cancer, Alzheimer's, anxiety. Yes. There are several things that we're learning about sleep deprivation and just the long-term effects of us every night not getting what it is that we need. I often talk to my clients about sleep. Why is this so important? I often talk to them about sleep in therapy because during sleep, your hormones and your emotional, the chemicals associated with your emotions actually reset when you are asleep. They regulate when you're asleep. And when you don't have those moments of the sleep cycles kind of flipping over and resetting, you are more prone to mental illness, emotional distress, and the lack of capacity to even move through some of the emotional stress that you experience every day, right? And so even though these things seem really small, when you collect them over 2 years, over 5 years, over 10 years, over 20 years, you can imagine the impact of that and the setbacks that can happen as a result of this deprivation. And so I want us to do a sleep wellness checkup or check-in. I want you to turn to the person next to you, and I want you to really check in and ask a couple questions about your sleep. How many hours of sleep do you need personally every night to feel like you can function well? The second question is, what are the emotional and mental impacts if you get 2 less hours than you need? So let's say one night I need 8 hours of sleep and I got 6. Who am I that next day, emotionally and mentally? Okay, so ask those 2 questions. How many hours do you need personally a night to feel rested? And what are the emotional and mental impacts if I am deprived by 2 hours of that? Oh, okay, yes, I'm sorry, we follow the mic. That's, yes.
I need at least 8.
I can barely hear you.
I need at least 8 to 10 hours of sleep
okay.
to really feel good.
Yeah.
And if I don't get it, I am irritable.
So
short patience and short-tempered.
Yes. So 8 to 10 hours a night, and if you don't get those 8 to 10 hours, then you feel irritable, short, low tolerance, okay.
I'm another person. I really do need like 8 hours, just like good, solid 8 hours of sleep. I'm sorry. And when I don't get it, most of you know I work with kids, and they're super chipper, and I am not. Yeah. So, like they're coming up like, oh, Miss Graves, they want to give me hugs and stuff. Like, no.
Yeah.
I'm not ready yet.
Yeah.
So I'll go with irritable and very low tolerance.
Yes. So 8 hours of sleep, and I hope that you caught that a little bit because not only do you feel a little irritable. You also have a decreased interest in emotional connection. Like you just, I can't do that right now, right? I don't have, I need to, there's something about myself that I haven't catered to and took care of. And so I don't have the liberty and luxury of extending emotionally to other people. Do you sense how the impact of that? So in some way, that makes sense, yes.
I generally could use 9.
Okay.
But I function well on 8.
Okay.
And I generally get 8. But there are times when I don't, and when I don't, I can be irritable. But the most important thing and the most embarrassing thing is I'm a psychologist. I'm sitting with clients.
Oh, sure.
I can nod out.
Yeah.
And that's not nice.
No.
It's
Yeah.
really bad.
Yeah.
So that even if I'm hearing, I know I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if my eyes are open, I'm not really getting it.
Yes.
So I'm not functioning at optimum level
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. So there's even a veil cognitively, right? So there's a dissonance between my ability to be present, to take in data, to the level of like, right, to respond and to be emotionally available and present. There is a deficit in that when we don't get enough sleep. I hope you're collecting all these things and getting insight into them. Okay.
I'm really not sure how many hours
Okay.
I need because I'm a night owl typically.
Yeah.
And it makes me so angry that my husband can get into bed
Yeah.
and be asleep in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm tossing and turning. I do know that the next day, if I don't feel like I got enough sleep, now that I'm retired, I end up going back to sleep about 10 o'clock, which is not good. And then I wake up a couple hours later. I'm also very grouchy. And I also think it's may be strange. I think I'm hungrier in the mornings when I don't get enough sleep.
Correct.
It could just be that I'm so evil and just want to eat. I don't know.
Yeah. That's actually a thing.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Okay.
There are
I'm all
two
right then.
hormones.
I'm normal.
You are, yes, you are. There are 2 hormones that I spoke of. Leptin is one of them, and is impacted by your sleep, right? The levels of that and how it interacts with your brain, and the area in your brain that says I'm full or I am satisfied, right? That hormone can be affected by the level or amount of sleep that you got. Yes.
Okay.
And then also, some people have an association. Food can be associated with comfort, right? And it can be something that is developmental, right? That in children and throughout life, we've had this kind of link in our brain with food is comfort. And so when I am deprived, I want comfort. Yeah, and so I want to comfort myself. I want to feel better. Kind of like, if a baby is crying and, if you breastfeed the baby will kind of relax, So that can be a thing. Yeah, definitely. Yes, ma'am.
I was just sitting here. We say we are what we eat.
Yeah.
But I think we are how much we sleep, too.
This is true.
I really do believe that.
True.
Because I've been retired for 12 years. I have been retired for 12 years.
Yeah.
And, my sleep pattern, just terrible.
Yeah.
But I love it like that then. But you're right, because the longer about gaining weight, the longer that you stay up, the more you will eat. You will eat. And getting up in the morning, I don't have to get up in the morning because I've eaten so much, and it's just beautiful. But it's not beautiful when I look at this. So I thank God for coming here. Thank you, Leah, and whomever invited me here. I am getting my sleep.
Yeah, good.
And it's wonderful.
Good.
And when I wake in the breakfast, it's just wonderful.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. And when we talked some about type 2 diabetes. Sleep deprivation can be connected to our insulin levels. Right, but what I mean by that is it can be connected to our insulin levels. So you're right, and our insulin levels is connected to our fat storage. Right? So when it increases our insulin, our body's like, no, keep the fat. We need it. Because we're not at an optimal level, we're not ideal, and so I need to keep this fat because I'm not sure what's going to happen to me. I don't know if I'm going to get enough sleep, eat food. I don't know what's going to happen, and so we can actually collect fat more. So I'm hoping that as you're taking notes, you're beginning to even design this idea of what I'm going to need, what rest template is required for my personhood, for my being, in order to be healthy and thriving, right? Mentally, I have, in the past year, and there's a marked difference in the past year. Of course, over 10 years, I think there's a pretty big difference as well, but there's an increase of anxiety, stress, and depression in my clinical practice. The number one thing that I see on day one is, Akua, I am stressed. I am fearful. I am anxious. I am scared. And that is impacting my work. That's impacting my relationships. And I need to do something about it. There's such an increase in the awareness of our fear in the world. And that impacts our ability to have mental rest. When we're thinking about our survival, when we're thinking about our personal safety, it's really hard for us to turn our brain off. We're connected to technology. We're connected to our even sense of responsibility of other people's lives, our families, right? And so where there were times historically where we would turn our brain off, our brain is activated more hours than it's not. And if you can just kind of scan your day, when you wake up, if you even got to sleep, because sometimes what we do is some people sleep with the TV on and our brain is still kind of taking data in. Or I had an argument and my brain is just like all night. And then, hopefully we get sleep. But when we wake up, from the time we wake up, we're on our phones, we're watching TV, we are, calculating our bills, we're doing all these things all day. Then we go to work. Right, we're in the car, we're listening to the radio, we're talking to somebody on the phone, and then we go to work, and then we're working all day, and we're doing all these things and accomplishing these goals and thinking about our checklist and what do we got to get from the grocery store and who has the best deals, and let me look at this app, and I need to check this person, and I didn't check Facebook, and right? That's stressful. That's stressful. And so we can actually have a deprived sense of mental rest just as a result of our brains being activated and lending towards being anxious, fearful, stressed in our world and in our life. Millennials, most Americans are more Americans than not, and people mainly don't know this, and it surprises people when I say this, but it doesn't surprise me. More Americans are on anti-anxiety medications. Yeah, it's pretty common. Yeah, PCP, your primary care physician will give you anti-anxiety medication now. There's kind of a dip in that a little bit this past year, but people need anti-anxiety medication to go to work and function right now. And that's not just indicated to someone that may have a mental illness or someone that has is predisposed for something like this or just has dealt with this throughout childhood. No, these are new occurrences of people that have been functioning previously pretty well and are now on anti-anxiety medications, right? Just to be able to I just need something to get through the day. I just need something to, take care of my kids. I need something to help me relax, right? There's also an increase in the use of coping strategies or coping skills, someone would say, to distract us from our stresses and worry, right? And so the level of activity in our brain is not being decreased by us pursuing things that help us to rest. We're just pursuing things that help us to do it more. Give me medication so I can do that extra job. I need to drink a little bit so I can relax in order to do this. I need to smoke cigarettes because I need to be able to work that 60-hour week, right? Give me something that will help me to stay really activated all the time, right? And so that begins to wear on us mentally down to the chemical level. The millennials are characterized as the most worried generation of ever. And so we're now in a season where anxiety is the norm, and it creates these deficits in our ability to rest mentally that are really, really challenging. My desire is for us to be able to see how that may be something happening in our life and seek avenues to have mental rest. Does anyone have even idea of what helps them to rest mentally? And I'm not talking about emotionally. I'm not talking about, in relationships. We're going to get to that. But just like my brain stopping for a minute. Okay. Soft music. Yeah. Yeah, good. Oh, yes. Meditation. Very great. Very good. Anybody else? Yes. Okay. Dreams that tax you? Yeah, so dreams can be something that can cause stress and anxiety. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Yes, post-traumatic stress.
Well, one of the things that helps me to rest, if I have a good active day, if I'm busy moving, then at the end I can go home and I can have a good rest. But if I'm not active during the day, it's hard for me to sleep. I'll be up all night.
Yeah, sure. So activity, physical activity actually helps your brain to relax and get rest. Very true. Yes.
The thing that helps me is hot tea.
Hot tea?
Yes.
Yeah.
I drink tea about an hour before I want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And it just calms me right down.
Good. Yeah. Is there a certain type?
Sleepy time.
Yes, chamomile. There are herbs that actually help with yeah. Sometimes even lavender. Yeah. These oils and tea have a chemical impact on us. Really good.
I find that great peace to those that love the law, and nothing shall offend him. Take out time for the Lord.
The Lord? Yes, she said take out time for the Lord.
Yes, and it brings it all in the strength. We each have our ways, but I find that taking the time with the Lord, that soothes me right on down.
So spiritual...
it makes a difference.
Yeah.
We think we don't need it.
Spiritually connecting. Yes.
And I want to also tell you this. In my car, I never knew this. I've had it for 2 or 3 years. I had my car for about 2 or 3 years. It's 4 years now. But one day I was driving down the highway, 95.
You can tilt the mic down.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
I was driving down 95, and a teacup came on my panel. It told me to stop and rest. I was shocked. Even they have it that the car knows when you're woozy. I never knew
It's
that.
a high-tech car. And a nice car.
It had a teacup. It says stop, but you know what I did? I kept on moving because I did not want to stop.
Yeah.
But even the engineers have done that. Some way they have. I did not know that.
Yeah, it says rest. Your
I was
driving
really
is
tired.
impaired.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, we have a response.
So
in the back.
spiritually connecting, being in tune with God, helps our mind to rest.
For me, anything that has to do with nature,
Yeah.
and anything, when I look at nature, the wonder of creation that God has made, it just causes me to, my blood pressure, I know, drops. Babies, anything green like that just causes me to calm down.
Yes, that is really important, what you just said. Being able to have an elevated perspective can give us mental rest. When you're in nature, sometimes our problems can seem really, really big, right? But when you stand under the expansive sky, you just feel it brings things down into perspective and size. And it helps to really just, helps you to sense that maybe this is possible. Maybe I can connect with God, and that whatever it is that I'm worried or stressed about, He can take care of it, right? All of these avenues are really helpful, and they combat the internal threats is really what the theme of what I've talked about as far as mental anxiety, stress, fear. They're internal threats on our personal safety, our identity, right? Our ability to be secure or at rest, right? Whenever we're experiencing anxiety or stress or fear, something is threatening my ability to be safe. It's threatening who I am, my identity as a person, or it's threatening my ability to be okay in the future, right? These are all the things that we talk about in therapy often, right? That, oh, this relationship, I'm worried because in the future I might not be secure in this relationship, right? Or these things are, I'm not safe. I'm not safe at work. I'm not safe in my body. I'm not safe in this conversation. I'm not safe in this relationship, right? And so the things that you've talked about helping you rest mentally also are really beneficial in you being able to have a better overall mental health. So pursuing those things is really important. I had a client come in, and she came in, she had chronic sleep issues, she was stressed at work, and she had trouble in her relationship, but she had an estranged relationship with her father. Her father was really not present in her life, and she was raised by a single mom, and they had lots of struggles growing up, being able to make it day to day, food, shelter, lot of challenges, and the father was not present. So she had a lot of resentment and anger towards this man for just leaving them and not being present. And we began to really process. We talked some about sleep, but my awareness as a practitioner is that it's not usually about the first thing that you come in for. But we started processing about sleep and saying, how can we improve your sleep? How can we improve what you're doing at work? But it led us to this relationship with her father. And we started processing her anger and her resentment towards her father, and it was so deep and so long-standing that it really had to begin to infiltrate, just like mold in a house. It began to infiltrate every aspect of her life. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't safely be in relationships without feeling like she was at risk. She held on to that anger. Remember that baby reference? She held on to that anger all moments of her life. And so as we began to process this anger and resentment, she really felt compelled to really talk through this stuff. And she actually went and talked to her dad, her father. And she expressed to him how angry she was, how, this person was over 50, talked to their dad, held on to this for 50 years, right? Talked to her her father, and literally the day after she talked to this man, she slept like 9 hours. Mental rest. Some of us are holding on to something, some things, multiple, that combat or keep us from having mental rest. And I don't know what it is for you, but I know that day in and day out, I see emotional concerns and issues that present as sleep problems that people are holding on to, that they cannot actually relax and rest. I want you to write down in your notes right now something that could be keeping you from mentally resting. Something that you're worrying about, something that you're stressing about. If it's something that just popped in your head, the first thing that popped in your head, that probably was it. Don't second guess it. Something that you feel in your life you're holding on to, or maybe, I don't even know if I'm holding on to it, it's just kind of floating in the distance. I really haven't taken care of it. I don't know. It might be something there. I want you to write that down. Some people are just worrying about their kids. Just worrying about their children. Some people are worrying about their retirement. They're worrying about the money. They're worrying about what's going to happen. Could be a relationship. And so our mental, in the area of mental rest, we've talked some about what is sleep deprivation, what is the impact on our brain, what's the impact on our ability to be in relationship with someone, right? And then also some of the emotional and mental, or the emotional impacts of that. Science tells us that, and we're still working this out in our scientific research, but it tells us that your brain has hormones that are connected to emotional resilience and mental resilience that are connected to your sleep. And so us being able to improve our sleep improves our ability to be resilient in pain and stress and anxiety, some of the things that we're talking about. Even though life comes with anxiety sometimes, and life comes with stress sometimes, our ability to get rest and to sleep helps us to fight, just like your immune system. It helps us to fight the stresses in life that we might experience. And so some of the keys to changing and getting more mental rest. So for some people, it's going to be lifestyle changes. You're talking about that here. It could be behavioral changes. It could be psychotherapy, sitting with a therapist and talking through these things. Some of those lifestyle changes are, and I'm sure that you covered this, so I'm not going to cover it too much, but caffeine can be something that keeps us awake, right? And even though you have a high tolerance for caffeine, if you drink it after 12, sometimes it would distract us from being asleep. Alcohol is a suppressant, but it also actually does not help us sleep. It's a myth, right? Some people say, "Oh, if I have some alcohol before I go to sleep, it's going to help me. It's going to help me sleep." It may help you get to sleep because it's a suppressant, but it will not help you stay asleep. Okay, and so that is actually counterindicated in research. Some foods that you're eating may keep you from getting rest and being asleep. Physical activity, someone said, helpful in getting sleep. It helps us to sleep more soundly, and it helps us to get to sleep faster. And so having physical activity during your day is really important. I usually talk to my clients about having a sleep routine. Other people call it sleep hygiene, and being able to know what your conditions are for sleep, It could be a dark room. It could be that tea. It could be an hour before I go to sleep. I'm not going to watch TV all the way up until I go to sleep, right? Because my brain is stimulated the entire time. It's processing data, you know? So I'm going to go and I'm going to start relaxing about an hour before I go to sleep. I'm going to turn everything off. I'm not going to be reading a thriller book, right? I'm going to be relaxing my mind, beginning to really close down those tabs mentally in order for me to relax. It might be being in nature. It might be today I had an argument with someone and I cannot sleep unless I process that, right? Because it's on my mind. It's on my mind and I can't function. So if I can really talk to that person before I go to sleep, that helps me to get mental rest. Or if I can't talk to that person, can I vent and talk to somebody else I love and help me to just kind of ease my mind in order for me to get rest when I sleep. And so developing this sleep routine and pattern is really important for you to be able to have mental rest. Write it down. This is very true. Write it down. I always see journaling as talking to a person. It just happens to be yourself. So you writing down things is really helpful as well. Getting it out of your head. All those things help us to get it out of our head and on paper. I had one client that had extreme anxiety and sleep. She had panic in her sleep, actually. She would just have nightmares. And so what we did was we had her write down a list of everything that she stressed about on a piece of paper before she goes to bed. Like everything that her mind is cycling in, just had her write it all down. And then she was able to go to sleep. Okay. Because her brain took care of it before she went to sleep. So that's something that's,
Could you comment on people who might talk in their sleep or groan in their sleep? Can that be an indication of anxiety?
I would probably have to ask more questions on that. That could vary. Some people just naturally have that. You know, some people are dreaming. They're actually dreaming, and they have just an active portion of that. So they could be actually doing actions, or some people sleepwalk. You know, all of those things they're not necessarily indicated to pathology or something bad. I would just have to ask more questions about the content of that, if it's disturbing them, if it's something related to like a trauma. Are they actually saying certain things that are, you know, harmful? Yeah, some people just make noises.
You are right at where I was gonna ask.
Yes.
You did not address dreams because I actually sweat when I wake up, or my wife will tell me, she even taped me dreaming.
Okay.
Because I replay situations that happened in the past.
Okay, now that's a little bit different. Yeah, so that's a little bit different.
Is that a medical condition?
I would probably ask more questions about that. I would probably need to ask you a little bit more, you know, to fish around on the medical portion of that. But I do know that when we start to have this physical manifestation of something harmful, right, that that person that I was telling you about that was having anxiety and sleep issues and dreams and nightmares, that person actually also sweat significantly, like was drenched wet when you woke up type thing. So that's when we begin to say, okay, there's something happening here that's not happening you any other time in the day, that you might be processing something subconsciously that has happened in the past. Right? And so being able to talk through that and process whatever that is, kind of bringing it from down in our unconscious to our conscious and being able to talk about it in therapy could be helpful. And that person was able to get some relief from that, and so that might be helpful for you as well. So not necessarily a medical condition without asking more questions, but a psychological and a mental challenge, that could be, yes, definitely. Yeah. So being able to process that, again, we're kind of holding on to things sometimes, and it comes out in our unconscious, right, which is our sleep process, and that could be that. Hopefully that's helpful to you a little bit. Yeah, you probably need to process that with a therapist or psychologist. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so let's kind of, we've got about 15 more minutes, but I wanted to do a couple things with you before I head out that I think are really important. And so right now, I'd love to walk you through mindfulness or meditation exercise, right? What does that mean? Some people kind of feel weird about that word. Basically, the word meditation means focused thinking. That's basically what it is, okay? So it's not anything, you can focus on whatever it is that you want to focus on, but it's just focused thinking, okay? And so what I want everyone to do is get in a comfortable position. This really helps with mental rest, being able to set down or let go of things that you might be mentally holding on to that will hinder you from getting rest. You're going to get in a comfortable position, probably legs not crossed, open. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes, right? And kind of relax your neck, shoulders, roll them back and roll them forward. We hold a lot of tension in the back of our neck and our shoulders. And I want you to just start to notice your breath, okay? You're going to breathe in through your nose, taking deep, intentional breaths, holding them, and breathing out through your mouth. And listening to the sound of it come out of your mouth, in through your nose. Feel the sensation of the air coming in through your nose and going up to your brain. And feel the sensation of it coming out of your mouth. Some people find it helpful to put their hand on their heart and feel the rise and fall of their body, kind of a rhythmic in through your nose and out through your mouth, sinking into that exhale, letting your shoulders sink. Keep that going in through your nose and out through your mouth. Some people also find it helpful to listen for their heartbeat and kind of center right in your heart, letting your mind kind of drip down into your heart and releasing and letting go of anything mentally that I'm holding on to. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And just feel what it feels like for your body to take care of itself. That it naturally just gives you what you need and that you're taken care of. And feeling what it feels like to be alive. I want you to take a few more deep breaths in through your nose. Really letting yourself sink down. Maybe even gain roots underneath your feet, grounding yourself into the earth. I'm going to take one more deep breath, breathing in through your nose and an exaggerated exhale. You can open your eyes when you're ready. How did that feel? Good. Anybody notice anything? Any change? Some people feel like a tingle right in here. Some people feel when they open their eyes, they feel like a difference in the atmosphere a little bit, right? right? Really what happens is that this is a part of your brain here, there's a part of your brain here. This part of your brain is sometimes threatened by a lot of things that we're going through in life, right? And it's working at a survival, right? Fight or flight, if you've heard of that, or freeze, right? And that part of your brain really can't access some of the empathy, rational thoughts that the front part of your brain can. What that exercise does is it helps to calm the part of your brain that is threatened and open the part of your brain that has rational thoughts and empathy and relaxation. And the oxygen going to that portion of your brain also helps with that. Okay? So that's an activity that you can use when you're looking for mental rest. Whatever it is that you're going through in the moment, you can take 1 minute at your desk, you can take 30 seconds at your desk, and you can let go of the things that are stressing you or worrying you, and just concentrate on the basics of taking care of your physical body. Taking in air and taking it out, okay? Although it might sound like a simple thing, I've seen people's lives improve as a result of taking moments to just do that. It's kind of like a commercial, it's like taking a nap. It really is. It's like taking a mental nap. Instead of having that activated brain from the morning all the way through the night, you're taking moments and you're relaxing yourself. When you come back to work, when you come back to that relationship, when you come back to that conversation, you have more empathy. You can actually work better. That's research says that. You can work better. You thrive as if you took a nap. Yeah. And so using that in your everyday life can be really helpful. And so I want to kind of end with the emotional impacts of rest and what it may look like for you to pursue with intention emotional rest. Has anyone ever heard of the term emotional exhaustion? Yeah? Has anyone experienced emotional exhaustion? Okay. Some of the symptoms of emotional exhaustion can be a loss of motivation, loss of creativity. It could be just a decreased ability to function in things that you used to do really well. Some of us are emotionally exhausted, and that parallels with mental exhaustion. I don't know if this past week, if you've experienced physical exhaustion. Anybody? When your body literally has no more resources. Like you have to sit down, you have to get water, you feel like you might pass out, or whatever it is, you're working out, and you have this physical exhaustion that you hit a wall. We can actually hit a wall emotionally. It could be due to overprocessing. It could be due to a relationship that is stressful all the time, right? It could be a work situation that's causing us a lot of compassion fatigue. But we can be emotionally exhausted, and that hinders our ability to have emotional rest. I saw a couple, and they had a lot of marital distance. They functioned really well logistically and as partners. You know, they got the bills together, they got kids stuff, they're moving, they're, taking care of their everyday life, but they really lacked intimacy, they lacked closeness, they weren't really together anymore, they just were existing within the same household, and that began to wear on their union and wear on their individual lives. That, not surprisingly, showed up also as sleep issues, that they weren't able to sleep through the night. One of them would have trouble getting to sleep. The other one would wake up, would sleep fine in the beginning and then wake up often. And we began to process some of the sleep issues that they had and their relationship issues. And we surfaced this idea of intense longing that they had for each other, that they hadn't talked about, that they hadn't been able to sit down together and address because they were too busy doing everything else. And so relationships, interdependence, can act as an emotional rest for us. Did you know that? When we are in tune with someone, when we experience intimacy with someone, it acts as an emotional reprieve from the stresses of the world. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you've either been with your partner and you just had a really good time with your partner, or you had a friend and you went out and did something really nice with your friend, or you had this great conversation with your friend, and how you feel relieved afterward. Just feel lighter and better. Even down to the hormone and chemical level, we can experience rest within relationship with another person. Remember in the beginning we talked about how sleep can interact or interrupt that connection with another person. When I don't have enough sleep, I don't really want to open up. I don't really want to be intimate and talk to people. I don't want to do that because I'm tired and I haven't had my needs taken care of. But when we have our needs taken care of and we're in this emotionally dependent and healthy relationship with another person, it acts as emotional rest for us. And so being able to pursue those things in your life is really, truly important. To have one or two people that you feel that you can be yourself, you can be undone and unstable and not be perfect with, that you can process and be accepted and wrapped around with this unconditional love with, so that we can put down some of the emotional concerns that we have and feel dependent on another person. How many people know that we were created for this level of dependence, interdependence? That when we are isolated, it's even associated with chronic illness. Yes. People that are isolated and don't have genuine relationships, they actually are more prone to have mental health issues. They're more prone to actually die earlier. Yes. Yeah, actually the mortality. There's so many things that are connected to our ability to be interdependent with another human being. And so in order to combat this emotional exhaustion and to build up our emotional emotional interdependence, there are a few keys that I want to give you before I leave here. Number one, get active. Somebody already said that. Your physical activity is connected to your ability to have emotional rest. Self-care. It could be you need to go get a massage, right? It could be that's the tangible taking care of, being taken care of by someone physically, right? It could be you need a mental health day. Do you know that you get paid for that? Some people don't know that. It depends on where you work. I'm sorry. It depends on where you work. But if you have vacation hours and if you have sick time, all of that, you get paid for a mental health day. So some of you need to take a mental health day and not work on anything, just to relax and take in your favorite, it could be a nature walk, it could be your favorite television show. So getting active is really important physically and taking care of yourself. Participating in something you love. Remember we talked about emotional exhaustion really takes away your creativity. Some of us really need to tap back into things that help us feel creative. Something that you love to do, something that you've been wanting to do. If I had more time, quote unquote, I would. That thing that you are holding on to that you might really love and be passionate about would actually make you thrive more in the stuff you have to do. And so taking time to participate in something that you love. Change of scenery. Many of us need a change in scenery. It might be changing your house around, right? It might be decluttering a house. Some people have that.
Mm-hmm. We had a presentation on that.
Okay, yes. It could be the physical aspects of your space. Change of scenery. Some of us need a new profession. Just a new, you don't like your job. You're not happy, right? I cannot rest when I'm not connected to things that help me to thrive, right? And so it's depleting, it's exhausting emotionally, and it impacts many of the things that you're experiencing. You don't realize it's affecting your relationship. It's affecting your relationship. Change of scenery. Time with people that we love. This is really important. Some of this stuff sounds cliche and people are like, okay, time with people you love. The reason why I'm saying there are many levels to why I'm saying what I'm saying, right? Even down to the chemical level of being in the proximity of someone that you love can actually decrease your blood pressure. It can reduce cortisol, the stress hormone in your body, right? It helps you to, muscularly, it helps your muscles to relax, right? And so there's so many reasons why we say these things are important. But spending time with someone that you love is like a mental and emotional reprieve or a relief from the world that may not accept you or love you and celebrate who you are. You really need spaces where you're celebrated and loved and valued. And an attitude change. Some people need to change their attitude, right? I shy away from saying that sometimes because, there's so many levels to that, and it sounds, there are ways that we can do that, and sometimes we cannot. But where possible, to change your attitude about your life and changing your perspective and outlook can help you to actually have mental rest. I've sat with people for about 30 minutes where they may have been talking about their life as being all bad, right? They might have muscular tension. They might actually have a headache talking about it physically. Their blood pressure is up. They might hyperventilate some. They turn flushed. They're kind of red, blood's pumping. Their body is threatened as they're talking about it. And through the process of talking about the exceptions to that, right? Oh, tell me about things that are working for you. Tell me about things that are actually going well. Talk about some of the positive things that that you can do, not you can't do. All of those things can actually be reversed in a short amount of time, right? So changing your attitude and being able to focus on a positive outlook is helpful. Yeah, and so I hope that we were able to cover some good information that will help you in your daily life. Again, sleep is important. Physically, emotionally, mentally. In order for you to impact and become fit and move towards wholeness, it's important to begin to think about, how am I intentionally taking time and making goals for me to rest? Rest physically, taking moments of reprieve in my mind during my day, and seeking out spaces that help to saturate my emotional well-being in positive and whole ways.